wiping that face. Good boy, good boy. Hello, 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 hello. Literally, I hit stream and then my dog gets up and needs attention. Isn't that always the way of it? Hope you guys are doing well out there. Today was the first day I had off from Capital for the week, right? And what did I do? I got my room ready, my apartment rather, ready, more ready to get a roommate. I've got a line on getting a roommate in my space. Oh, jeez. I should probably actually get my mic set up. Oh, jeez, I'm a professional. We here at the Canadian Commie are extremely professional. We're extremely professional here at the Canadian Commie. Compton, Eric, absolute pleasure to see you. I am doing all right because I'm getting my space set up to get a roommate in here. I've got a line on somebody who's going to come and see the place. Today was dedicated to like cleaning up the apartment and making the big moves, right? I got to get, I had to get my bed moved out of that, what is currently my bedroom. But the space that I'm in right now is actually pretty big. And I've been thinking for a long time that like, this space is way too big for just me, right? Especially now that the rent is like, $1 billion for a day. The rent is too damn high. Everything's gotten ridiculous. I could use my rent halved, right? Yo-Yo Gaming, good to see you, my man. And so I did the big moves today. And so tomorrow is going to be about just like the smaller stuff and clearing that space out and all of that and making it better. And then I need to schedule, because I just need to build like one wall to get separation, privacy kind of thing. And even if it falls through with this fella, then that means the space is actually complete. And the real positive part of it is that now that I've moved all of the pieces into the positions that they're in, I can see very clearly that my instincts were correct. That this space is going to be way more than enough for me. Like, I still have space to do yoga in. I still have space to just walk around in. I still have space. Like, everything is just going to be completely fine. Nothing feels tight. There's no moment where I'm, like, crunched up or bunched up at all, right? Everything's going to be perfectly fine. And if I can get a roommate in here, it means that my rent is going to be cut in half. And given that rent is my number one expense, it'd be a real boon. It'd be a real blessing in my life. And even if it falls through with this particular person, I'll have it all set up so that I can move forward with someone else very quickly. Mikhail, good to see you. Eric, guess what? My aunt accused me of being anti-Semitic for not supporting Israel. Yeah, the classic argument, right? Just the classic, like the thing you say when you don't have anything to say. When you don't actually have an argument, right? When you don't actually have a position, when you don't actually understand what's being said, or you don't care to understand, right? Like, you can just throw your hands up and be like, oh, he's anti-Semitic, and walk away. That's it. Like, forget about the fact that it's like a grotesque insult, right? Forget about the fact that it's like a really, really brutal thing to accuse someone of. Especially when, like, we are talking about Zionism. That's what we are talking about. And it's like, of course we should be critiquing Israel in this moment. They're increasing bombing. They're increasing the attack on Gaza. They're increasing all that kind of stuff, right? Like this period of time, it's gotten obvious, Like, it's just gotten obvious. We have all of this information. We have all of this ability. We've got all of this capability to see what's what. We don't need to rely on the gatekeepers anymore. We can quite literally, the communication system has gotten strong enough and is getting stronger by the day that it's gotten to the point now where we can quite literally go to the source itself. We don't need a gatekeeper. We don't need somebody whose job it is to vet the information. We literally can go to the Twitter page or the Twitter account or to the feed of a person in Palestine who's literally saying, this is what's happening in Palestine. Like, we don't need these gatekeepers anymore. Right? And I understand there was a period of time where it was necessary. Like, it was. Like as much as it was obviously being abused by the system of capital, like, how else are you going to do it? Right? There's no other way to do it. but now that system's broken apart, and so it's gotten obvious. It's gotten obvious what's happening in Palestine. It's gotten obvious what's happening in Israel. It's gotten obvious, and what we're seeing, like to bring a tinge of hope to the conversation. By the way, right? This here is a CNN poll, right? Israel's military response to Hamas attacks is fully justified by age. If you're 65 plus years old, 81% of people say yes, Israel's military response is justified. The younger you get, and it's a straight, clear line, clear trend downwards. And the next tier is actually a big jump down, right? So if you're 65 plus years old, you have 81%. That means 8 out of every 10 people, right, think that Israel's military response is completely justified. Well, if you go down to just 50, right, it's 56. So it's almost only half, right? Closer to 6 out of 10. So a 20% decline. And then 35 to 49. It's a make me do math. 12% decline, and then from there 18 to 34. Only 27%. So you go from as high as 8 out of 10 people to down to 3 out of 10 people between the ages of 18 to 34. So the trend is in the favor of time. That as time moves forward, and as this older cohort begins to die off, right? As this older cohort begins to die off, the trend of time will become less favorable of this obvious crazy Zionist / Nazi regime that's taken over in Israel, and hopefully more favorable towards, hey, maybe we should not be lunatic psychopaths. Like, maybe we should actually do something that's good. Larry got the wife's blessing. Good for you, bud. And went to the Jews against genocide protest outside the Israel consulate yesterday. Good for you, my man. About 500 people attended. That's quite healthy. That is a very healthy protest, man. 500 people? That's a lot. That's a lot, especially today. Closed down Young and Bloor for an hour. Good for you, bud. Good for you, bud. That's man. Like, you're talking to a guy who genuinely believes that we need like permanent protest movement. Like we need a permanent protest movement to essentially take over sections of the city at this stage in the game. Like it just needs to be the case that people can't get through certain sections of the city because there's a constant protest movement going on. Like we need another Occupy. We need another event like that. So to see that there are 500 people who are willing to come out and willing to put themselves on the line. Like, I know that, I don't want to speak for your situation, but I know that you've told me that it's a delicate situation for you, right? That there's real skin in the game. And so to come out and put that skin in the game. Like, I remember one time, like, and I have been in the past somewhat naive about this, right? That I remember one time I showed up to a pro-Palestinian protest, and they had it set up so that they did a Palestinian protest and an Israeli protest at the same time, right? That like the people would come out to City Hall in favor of Palestine, and then directly across from them, separated by a barrier, were the people who were in favor of Israel. And this is back when I actually had more time, and so I could actually go to these places, and I was trying to document these protests. I was trying to do that kind of thing, and I hope to do that one day again. I hope that if the clutches of capital get off of me, like what if I can get blessed with more time, that I'll be able to actually go document these protests again, because Lord knows the mainstream media won't. Right, the mainstream media's documentation of these things is an article on page 53, paragraph 62. We'll mention it. We'll give a sentence. 500 people showed up, right? Just to say that we did it, right? Well, I would like to make this channel about that. I would like to make it so that people would be like, oh, I don't know who to contact or any of that kind of stuff. Hi, hello. I would like to do that. That's something that I would like to do. Yeah, I suspect you were, Larry. The one benefit, the one thing that my experience... So I'll tell the whole story, right? My experience was that a ton of people showed up to the Palestinian rally. A ton of people. Yeah, like 500 people showed up. Big flags, big like show of force, all that kind of stuff. Almost nobody showed up in favor of Israel. Almost nobody showed up. Like 20 people. Just a small smattering, very small group, small group of people. And of course I was there and I was just filming it. I was just documenting it, right? And I was a bit naive, honestly. And I got confronted by organizers. And at the time I didn't understand, why am I being confronted by organizers? I'm just documenting this. And it wasn't until I got connected with Socialist Action, because Socialist Action was there, and I was interacting with them and shaking their hands, that the organizers left me alone. Right? Because I think, I didn't realize it at the time, but I suspect that these organizers have lots of history of white supremacists, right, coming in, getting footage of people, and then hunting them, right? And I didn't realize that I was giving the signal, that I had that look, right? That I had that look, and that at the time I was like pretty offended. But as I've gotten less naive about it and less stupid about it, I've come to understand, like, no, they have to do that. They're dealing with something very real and very serious. And so I understand your nervousness, Larry. Like, I understand. So I think I'm telling you that story to let you know that the people who are organizing those protests are aware of it, that they are confronting people. They confronted me. And at the time I was upset about it, but now I've come to see that it's good to know. It's good to know that they're confronting people, and it's good to know that they're getting in people's way, and it's good to know that they're demanding, if they see people trying to act out of character or against the favor of the protest, that they will confront them. So that there is, hopefully this eases your mind to know that there is a structure. It seems chaotic, but there are people in the background who are actually organizing this and looking out for the interests of the people who are showing up for your safety and to help you. So and I'm happy if at the end of the day I look like the fool, because I mean, honestly, I think I was the fool in that story, that I went in there, I think, with good intentions but naively, and the experience that I had really taught me that if I am going to act in that way, perhaps I need to try to find the central organizers and try to find the people and touch base with them and get more connected in a more official capacity rather than just do stuff, you know? In any case, that's my story. Israel directly endangers all of the diaspora because they claim to represent, me. They don't. Yeah, that's true. And that's the distinction, right? That's the reason why we need to make this distinction. The distinction between Zionism and Israel, right? That what the Zionists have done is not different than what the Nazis did with the swastika. That the swastika was a Hindu symbol for peace, right? That it was a religious symbol representing peace. And the Star of David is a Jewish symbol representing the nation of Israel and representing peace, right? It doesn't represent what Zionists have done with it. So it's the same thing. It's the same idea that what the Zionists have done to Judaism is the same as what the Nazis did to Hinduism and with the swastika, right? Liga disease is this on the channel? I don't know what you mean, but are you talking about the video? Though I'm talking about, I did post a video using that footage, but I didn't live stream it, if that's what you mean. And yeah, Socialist Action was there yesterday too, of course. Socialist Action, very, very, very organized. Very, I admire. The thing I admire about Socialist Action is that they're on the right side, right? Like they're Trotskyists, right? And so they have that kind of element to them. But I mean, it's such a inside baseball conversation that I don't even care to have it. Really, they show up. they show up and they're dedicated and they have the flags and they have the presence and they're trying to build a coalition and they're working to get people in politics and get people affiliated and to create alternative political structures, and they're working to do that. They're doing all the right things, as far as I'm concerned. They're doing all the right things. And so socialistaction.ca, please consider, right, if you're looking for a group to actually touch base with, and if you're actually looking for a group to, if only to know what's going on in the city. That's the thing that's the most impressive about them. Like, people ask, like, I don't know how to connect with any of the protest movement. I don't know how to connect with any of that kind of stuff. Socialistaction.ca. They will send you a newsletter that will tell you about all the upcoming protests. They will. And so, socialistaction.ca, if you don't know what's going on. And yeah, press the like button, hit the likes, share, subscribe. Here on Twitch, we've got Hail Tosis, good to see you. Resist Colonizers, becoming a regular, good to see you, my man. Akira Nishikiyama. Love that name. What is communism? Akira asking the big questions. Asking the big important questions, Nikira. Absolutely laying it out. Well, communism is fundamentally a critique of capitalism, with the insistence that it is possible to move away from the system of capital into a system that is run by what communists call the proletariat, the working class. That fundamentally, at its central core, communism defines capitalism as the relationship between what it calls the bourgeoisie, which can be understood as just the ownership class, people who own assets, people who own the means of production, factories, right? Like Jeff Bezos is an owner. Jeff Bezos is a capitalist. And the distinction between him and the people who work for him is that the people who work for him don't own anything. They don't own the means of production. They're just the workers. And so communism is pointing out that there is a fundamental, central, antagonistic relationship baked into the structure of the society that needs to be confronted and eliminated. That it is impossible to build a civil society and a successful society in the long term if that society is fighting against itself by its very nature. That what is good for the ownership class is not good for the working class, and what's good for the working class is not good for the ownership class. So there's a antagonism in the society that needs to be addressed, and that's what communists are fundamentally trying to achieve. They get demonized a lot by capital. There's a lot of demonization of communism that comes from the system of capital, because fundamentally the communist solution is to eliminate capitalism and to eliminate the bourgeoisie as a class and have the working class become the owners of the society. That the people who work in the factories should own them. That the people who are elected to be representatives in the government should be working people. That there simply should not be an ownership class that exists as owners, and that's all they are, right? You think about people like Warren Buffett, right? Warren Buffett is fundamentally a parasite. He does nothing of value whatsoever. His quote-unquote job is being rich. That's it. That he takes his money and he invests it, right? He buys assets and he buys people in order to increase his money supply, the amount of wealth that he has through this profit motive idea. And so the system of communism critiques that through Marxist, through historical dialectic materialism, right? Through an analysis of history and an analysis of the material conditions of people, and attempts to move the society away from this class dynamic where there is an ownership class and there is a working class into a dynamic where everything is being run by the workers exclusively, and there is no class of citizen that just simply owns stuff, and that's their job, is just to own stuff. It's a long process. It takes a lot of time. and it is often misunderstood. And in the case of capitalists, it's intentionally misunderstood. It's misunderstood on purpose because it's to the benefit of the capitalist to pretend as though their primary antagonist, which is communism, doesn't know what it's doing or always results in failure or catastrophe, when even a cursory analysis of the history of communism shows that communism has been successful every single time it's been tried. It's just constantly in conflict with capitalist forces, and those capitalist forces are oftentimes, because of the wealth and power that the capitalists have, successful in destroying communist countries, in destroying projects of communism, right? That if you carpet bomb a country that is attempting to become communist, then yeah, that country is going to be in poverty, right? And then you get to turn around as a capitalist and say, oh, communism fails every time it's been tried because we carpet bombed it. But we don't talk about the carpet bombing, right? It's clearly the failure of communism. It has nothing to do with the carpet bombing, right? And that's more or less the strategy of capital, to try to gatekeep the information and keep from the society the fact that, like, anytime you hear, look at Venezuela, let's just completely ignore the sanction regime, right? Let's completely ignore the fact that, the United States has put like a destroyer off the coast of Venezuela and basically prevents them from trading internationally, right? Let's just forget about the fact that it's collapsed the economy of Venezuela and has essentially forced it into a complete and total panic mode to try to rebuild trade alliances and try to rebuild some kind of trade system while simultaneously dealing with the United States' sanction regime, right? Like, ignore all that. No, Venezuela failed because communism. That's it. Conedoto, good to see you. Comrade, big hug from Brazil, and right back at you, my man. Right back at you. Good to see you. I hope that answers your question, Akira. I got a little lost in the sauce at the end there, I think, but I think I covered the bases pretty much. That really, at the end of the day, like if you read the Communist Manifesto and if you just read Das Kapital, like Michael Parenti's Black Shirts in Red is another good source. Like it's fairly common sense stuff. And one of the big things that I like to point out, one of the big things that I talk about a lot, is that a big reason why we're in this sort of fail situation, a big reason why the society is in this downward spiral, is because the capitalists themselves are illiterate and they don't know what capitalism actually is, right? That if they did know how capital, like if the economists from Oxford and Princeton and Berkeley and these places actually knew how the system of capital worked, they would stand against it and they would be demanding a change, because then they would be literate and they would understand. But that would mean that they would have to read the works of Marx, and they don't, right? So this intentional stupidity, this intentional removal of information and facts and logic from the conversation just means that they can't predict anything. They don't plan for anything, and they just deal with things as they come. And the way that they are dealing with things is detrimental to the society, because their way of thinking about how to build a successful society, it always comes down to enrich a small group of capitalists. That the whole thing is geared to say, well, if the capitalists are making money, then it's good. And it's just fake. It's just nonsense, right? Like, who cares if a billionaire gets another $1 billion, right? Like, it doesn't help anybody to have a one billionaire get another $1 billion. What you need actual systems to distribute wealth. You need actual systems to enrich your populace and to actually raise the well-being of your populace. That we don't have anymore, because we've dismantled whatever meager systems actually existed, right? Like the tiniest, any kind of distributive method is just basically destroyed. Yeah, have you ever considered no iPhone Vavula? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Venezuela only nationalized 20% of their economy. Norway has nationalized over 50%. Yeah, that's true, Haltosis, but you got to remember, Venezuela nationalized 20% of their economy in spite of the wishes of capital. When Norway did it, it was a concession. The capitalists of Norway went, okay, yeah, yep, we're good, yep, right? When Venezuela did it, it was Chavez going around being expropriated, we own that now, fuck you. It wasn't the capitalists going, okay. It was the capitalists being forced they had the means of production seized, is what happened. Also, the real issue is hierarchy, not nationalization. I mean, who's in control, right? Like, the goal of the communists is to create a dictatorship of the proletariat, right? That right now we live under a dictatorship of capital. It's why you can't vote for a non-capitalist party, right? And the goal of the Communist Party and communists generally is to say, no, this is a dictatorship of the proletariat. Capitalists are not allowed to have power. Period. They're not allowed to be at the table. Like, if we find out that one of the people who was attempting to run in the political system is corrupted by capital, we just throw them out the window and we say goodbye. You're no longer part of the system. It's very straightforward. So I hope that all answers the question. Vladimir Stalin killed 669 trillion in 1956 in a famine. And Vavula, no iPhone. Think about it. That's right, Generation Y me. Yeah, no other school of philosophy out there is as persecuted as Marxism because no other philosophy threatens the capitalist party. Well, and I think one of the things to really point out with that statement is that Marxism isn't really, like, true Marxists would not say that it's a philosophy at all. That it's a science. That's what they would actually say. They would be like, yeah, like, economics is a science, that we are looking at it as a science. And so to look at economics as a science, we need to accurately look at what the material and historical conditions actually are and discuss those things, because that's what a scientist would do. The true philosophers in the conversation are the capitalists, because the capitalists understand that if they actually look at reality, and they actually do what the communists do, which is look at reality, that they lose, right? They know that they lose, because the system is a class system in which there are owners and workers, right? They're aware of this dynamic, and so they have to create other narratives. That's why you have hacks like Peterson around, right? It's like why you have these guys who refuse to actually talk meaningfully about Marxism. Because even in the discussion of Marxism, if you were to seriously sit down and actually attempt to criticize Marxism, then you'd actually have to address the class dynamic, and they just won't do it. That's why everything is like personal responsibility, right? Everything needs to be about something other than the structural reality that there is a working class and a ownership class, that you're just not allowed to discuss that, even though that's the central document, that's the central truth of what's actually going on in the society, right? So everything needs to be about anything else. We need intergenerational war. We need race war. We need ethnic war. We need sex war. We need a culture war. We need anything that can distract from the reality that the central issue of our society is actually that there's a working class and a parasite class, right? That there are people who do things for the society and people who do nothing of value whatsoever. That until that conversation is actually had, and so they just don't. They just don't, right? And nobody's forcing them to. And they're the ones with the wealth and the money and the power. They're the ones that are able to buy influence, right? So we just do our best. That's really, yeah. This is why capitalists speak in and make abstraction. Yeah, well, and you even think about, like, their basic justifications for things, right? Like, I am allowed to have this money because I earned it. Well, that's a very philosophical thing to say. That has nothing to do with an actual analysis of the society or the culture. That has nothing to do with what's actually going on, right? It's a statement of value that assumes that the action of the capitalist is by its very nature valuable because they quote unquote earned it, right? I earned it. Well, so if I'm a ticket scalper, right? If I'm a ticket scalper, I earned it, right? So it's the justification of a ticket scalper, right? I took the time to get here early, to set up a camp, to set up a tent, to sit in front of the line, right? I sacrificed. I built up enough wealth to be able to buy all of the tickets. When the ticket booth opened, I was there first. I bought all of the tickets right away, and then I tripled the amount of the price, and then I also sold those tickets, right? I also sold those tickets. So I worked really hard. I worked really, really hard to do that, right? I earned it. Well, okay, but no. We're not going to allow you to do that. Well, why not? I earned it, right? Well, why not? Because we intrinsically understand that that's unfair. That's a shitty thing to do. That we the idea that one person can swoop in, buy all the tickets, and then turn around, double the price, and resell them, right? Sure, it's a thing that you can technically do. We're just going to disallow it. Why? Because it's shitty, and nobody should be able to do that, right? It's lame. It sucks. Fuck you for doing it, right? So we don't allow that if you want to go see Taylor Swift, right? But if you want to live in a house, right, then it's completely fine, right? House scalping is a completely fine thing to do. It's completely fine to swoop in, buy up all the houses, triple the amount of value, right? Triple the cost of selling, all of that kind of stuff. So house scalping is completely fine. You can also do it with employment. You can also do it with jobs, right? You can bribe a politician to move a Walmart into a region, destroy all of the local businesses, be the only place in town where anybody can work. Oh, well, I earned it, right? So the I earned it argument is a philosophical argument, and how do you dismantle the philosophical argument of I earned it? By pointing out the reality of the situation and pointing out the dynamics that it creates, and saying that those dynamics are unhelpful and harmful, in fact, to a society. And it is harmful to a society to have people house scalping. It is harmful to a society to have people job scalping. It is harmful to a society. Scalping is a very effective strategy. It's why they do it, right? That's why they do it. And instead of actually saying we are no longer going to permit this kind of activity, we go, well, they did work really hard. If Ted Bundy stood up in court and said, oh, it makes sense that I killed all those people and you can't throw me in jail because I earned it, right? No one would take that seriously. But if capitalists do it on a mass scale, killing millions of people, then it's fine, I guess, right? So this is a philosophy. Modern capitalism is not science. It's a system of religious thought. That's pretty central to the way that I think about the modern day capitalist arrangement. I mean, I say that capitalism is a death cult. The name of this channel is the Canadian Commie, and the name of this show is Capitalism is a Death Cult. Right? Why is it called Capitalism is a Death Cult? Because capitalism is a death cult, and a death cult is fundamentally a religious ideology. It has nothing to do with science. It has everything to do with power. It has everything to do with getting a small group of people. It has everything to do with a small group of people getting the mass of the public in line to do all of the work to build a society that benefits that small group of people based exclusively on religious principles. And the trouble is that the universe doesn't work on religious principles, right? The universe works on reality and on scientific principle and on fundamental truths that are real. And the religious ideology has now decided to pit itself against reality. And we are going to pay dearly for it. We're going to pay dearly for it. I've got an article right here, for God's sakes. I've been saying for a long time that, here we go. A once in every 7.5 million year event is current... Milo. Jeez Louise, dude. I'm having a very serious conversation here. And you're coming in My goodness. My goodness. A once every 7.5 million year event is currently unfolding in Antarctica. To say unprecedented isn't strong enough. In the past 8 years, sea ice in Antarctica has reached a new record low 4 times. The Australian Broadcasting Corporation reports. The first 3 times ice levels that have dropped in the summer have rebounded in the winter, but this year, during what is currently winter in Antarctica, scientists have confirmed that the ice is not reforming, leaving long stretches of Antarctic coastline bare. According to physical oceanographer Edward Doddridge, this is the first time an event like this has been observed, and it's extremely unlikely to have happened on its own. To say unprecedented isn't strong enough. This is a 5 sigma event, which means that if nothing had changed, we'd expect to see a winter like this about once every 7.5 million years. There are people saying it could be natural variability, but it's very unlikely. According to Doddridge and others, the most likely cause is human activity. People create air pollution through activities like burning fuel, and that pollution traps heat on our planet, heating up the atmosphere and the ocean. Some combination of warmer water and higher energy weather patterns is likely. What's melting the ice? Why does it matter? Polar ice is a major factor in the Earth's albedo, which is the amount of light reflected from the surface instead of being absorbed. When there's more ice, the planet's albedo is higher and the sun doesn't warm as quickly. When the ice melts, the planet starts absorbing more heat. This also creates ice albedo feedback, a vicious cycle in which melting ice makes the ocean heat up faster, causing even more ice to melt. If too much of the polar ice is lost, it could reach a tipping point that will lead to the Earth heating up much more quickly. Petra Hale, a sea-iced physicist from the Australian Antarctic Division, told ABC, "We might end up in a new state. That would be quite concerning to the sustainability of human conditions on Earth, I suspect." A much hotter environment has frightening implications for human health. It could also destroy the fish we rely on for food, the farmland we grow crops, the rainforests we need for oxygen. What can be done? The best hope is to stop the runaway air pollution causing our planet to heat up. It needs to happen quickly. I think a lot of people have the timeline too long out, saying this won't affect them. I'm pretty convinced this is something my generation will experience. Albedo? Fine. So this is a death cult. I think that we can say pretty clearly and pretty straightforwardly that this is a death cult. That the system of capital is what's generating the problem. It's generating the problem by ignoring reality and by doubling down on a philosophy of thought, right? On a dogma, on a fake reality. And that a lot of the work that I attempt to do is to articulate what exactly is that dogma. What exactly is the religion of capital? And the religion of capital is the worship of money, right? That money replaces God, that a person with money is holy, and that everything that person with money does is good by its very nature. That's why people who worship capitalism think people like Elon Musk are good, instead of obviously hacks and losers and frauds and just evil demons, right? Like, very straightforwardly. Then there's the worship of the self, which says if it's good for me, it's good, right? Very, very straightforwardly. It doesn't matter if I have to massacre 100 people. It doesn't matter if kids need to go into cobalt mines. It doesn't matter if we have to carpet bomb countries. None of that matters. It's good for me. It's good. And then, of course, the third prong is the worship of the hierarchy itself, which is that the structure of capitalism, even though we refuse to acknowledge the structure of capitalism and we refuse to acknowledge what that structure even looks like or analyze it or discuss it with any seriousness, that is itself good. And this leads to a lot of, like, my daddy said so kind of thinking. That I was told by my daddy that this is good, and so it's good. And it's a religious ideology that feeds on itself, that fuels itself, and it's leading to the destruction of humankind. in a very straightforward, very obvious, directly right in your face, like very clear. Like there's the mystery's gone. There's no mystery to this. It's not confusing. It's not difficult to understand. We are physically experiencing the planet heating up now. That this year is already the hottest year on record, only defeating the previous year, which was the hottest year on record, which only defeated the previous year, which was the hottest year on record. That the line goes up. But if the line goes up in terms of the heat of the planet, Chinese hoax. If the line goes up in terms of money for me, good. It's a religious system. It's a religious ideology that has supplanted our ability to be reasonable and to have reason, which is why the society is collapsing into absurdity. We are becoming an absurd people, collapsing into absurdity, because we have no central principle or central understanding of how the world works, and so there's no rules. Nobody actually abides by anything that actually is real, and so we just do what we want. Right? If I had to give a label, right? If I had to give a label to what the cry of the death cult and the death cultists would be, it would be let chaos reign, right? Or to put it in the words that they put it in, let the free market decide. Well, if you want to let a free market decide, then that means there's no rules. Anyone can do anything they like, and the outcome and the winner in a system of letting chaos reign is the person who has the most amount of wealth, who ascends themselves in terms of status to the highest point of the hierarchy. That's the whole system. So it doesn't matter if you're a slaver. It doesn't matter if you're a pimp like Andrew Tate, right? It doesn't matter if you're a complete fraudulent phony like Jordan Peterson. Like, none of that matters. All that matters is that you're rich and you have status within the hierarchy, right? So it doesn't matter that Peterson's a great example, because it doesn't matter that Peterson is considered to be like a loser in his own profession. It doesn't matter that psychologists think that Peterson is sort of mid-tier, like not really that interesting, hasn't really published anything worthwhile, isn't particularly well respected as a psychologist, because he's well respected by the hierarchy. He's well respected by the hierarchy of capital, and that's all that matters, right? So it's a religious ideology. Lovely season out. The Antarctic flowers on bloom are especially pretty this year. Yeah. I could go for some Sour Patch Kids. Then go get some Sour Patch Kids, my man. Like, at this stage in the game, it's the little things that matter. It's the little things that matter. Do those little things for yourself. And be gone with this concept of shame. Be gone with any of this concept of like, there is nothing this society can critique you for. I think that's a big thing. That there are no teachers, there are no moral guides. Nobody is allowed under any circumstance at any moment to tell you how to think, what to think, and what to do. Because and I consider like the entire education system to be like to be on that level. Because if the education system was actually working in our favor instead of working for the death cult, they would already be on strike. They would already have shut down. They would have already been marching on Parliament. They would have already said to their children, to their parents, and to their society, what we're doing is fundamentally wrong, and we have to stop doing what we're doing right now. Full stop. Full stop. No exceptions. It's not a radical position. The radicals in the conversation are the capitalists, because the capitalists are saying what we should do is destroy humanity for power. That's what they are fundamentally saying. That it is okay to destroy all human life and to watch all of our food and all of our water and our air become polluted so that for a very brief period of time we can have superpowers. That is the position of the capitalist death cult. And to say that the people standing up against the death cultists are the radicals is absurd. It is not a radical position to not want to see your air and water polluted. That is not a radical position. And the fact that the teachers are not willing to stand up and organize themselves and stand up against the death cult tells you that they have nothing of value to teach us. They are not teachers. They are capitalists. And their job is to train people to be capitalists. So the universities have nothing to teach us. The schools have nothing to teach us. The churches have nothing to teach us. Because they are not organizing against the system of capital that is seeking to destroy us and our children. So do what you like. Do anything you like. And if these people stand up and try to finger wave at you, who cares what they think? Like, for real, who cares what they think? They're not even standing up against a death cult. An obvious, very clear, directly in your face, so obvious, smacking you in the face over and over again daily. Every moment you are awake, they are in front of you, informing you that they are a death cult, and nobody's doing anything about it. That you all are turning to just voices on the internet at this point, phantoms and ghosts that are floating through reality, right? Like that's what's happened. That's where we are. That's how pathetic Western culture has become, and how fraudulent its institutions are, and how disconnected from reality the system of capital has become. That its citizenry is incapable of actually acknowledging that the danger that it's in, and those of us that do acknowledge the danger that we in have nobody to turn to. Like, who's fighting against this? Who's actually saying straight out, hey, let's take the toys and put them in the toy box. Let's stop this pollution. Let's actually say, like, okay, that's great, Bill, that you want to fly a plane every day. Like, that's great that Jeff Bezos wants to shoot rockets into space. That's great, Taylor, that you want to fly your jet all over the place. That's great, Jeff, that you want to have a yacht that's so big that you need another yacht in it, and then you could fly a helicopter to go get bread or something. Like, that's nice that that's your desire. Too bad. Like, too fucking bad. But we're not willing to do that, right? Because even the people who kind of shake their head about it are just complicit in the system of capital itself, in the hierarchy, that we are in a system of capitalist realism, that the system of capital is more powerful than God. It's just absurd. I think I'm going to play that song. I just tuned up my guitar. It's been a while since I played a song on stream, so let me get myself set up so I'm not blasting you with a guitar. That should be a good distance right there. It's been a moment since I've played this, so... Got asked a question by my niece who's 5 years old. What's the world gonna be like when I'm grown? I looked up at the crimson smoke-filled sky. I thought, what's the harm in telling one more lie? I said, everybody's safe, no one's living in the street. You never need to worry if you're gonna get to eat. And Antarctica is covered in the burning sun won't leave a paper trail. Why work so hard if it's too big to fail? And what's the point in feeding this machine if it won't make the world in our dreams where everybody's safe, no one place to be, better than before. So everybody's safe, no one's living in the street. You never need to worry if you're gonna get to eat. And Antarctica is covered in ice. Antarctica is covered in ice. You know, and the truth is that I still think we can do it. That's the truth. I still believe that we can do it. That the solution to the problem is actually quite straightforward and quite easy. We don't need to make something. We don't need to do something. We don't need to be clever. We don't need to be salesmen. That the earth created a garden for us. That the earth created us. I think that we forget that. We didn't make this environment. The environment made us. It's more than capable of healing itself. It's more than capable of healing itself. And if we want to be here to watch it do that, watch the miracle of the earth healing itself, then all we have to do is stop. Simon, good to see you. I've listened to your music before. Big fan. Good. Oh, well, thank you, Simon. I appreciate that. Do you think you could play F This Job? It's been a long time since I played that song, bud. Let me go get my book, because I don't actually remember the words. It's been a long time since I played that tune. And I might need to... Here, hold on. I'll be right back. And grab my capo. And grab my book. Grab my book. God, it's been a moment since I've done this tune. But that's a good one, actually. I feel like I should keep that song in the mix, you know? It's been a minute since I played that tune. Stop the U.S. military, yeah. Like, why we got all these destroyers just floating around, right? I hope that I am one day given the absolute pleasure of seeing a gigantic squid wrapping its tentacles around one of those things and pulling it down into the earth, into the water. I hope we get like a real Cthulhu moment, you know? I really hope we do. Come on now. Oh my goodness. I gotta do better than this. Hold on, I feel I'm getting close. I'm gonna turn the corner. No, that's Psychopath Nation. Been a while since I played that. And I'm getting there. I feel it. It's the next turn right here. Yes. I hope this is the song you were thinking of, man. This place is over your money you can keep. This place is bubbling over your money you can keep. I'd rather while away my day dying in the street than spend another moment sucking up to you. You can take this job, put it up your ass, and this is what you'll do. Get fucked. Get fucked. I didn't want this goddamn job anyway. Get fucked. Get fucked. You fucked around and found out. Go away. Just go and get a job that doesn't pay the rent. Go get an education and drown in all your debt. The billionaires don't give a damn how hard they're screwing you. So let's all send a message and tell them what to do. Get fucked. Get fucked. I didn't want this goddamn job anyway. Get fucked. Get fucked. You fucked around and found out. Go away. We're all in this together so long as you do all the work. Slave away your better days to make money for some jerk. This deal ain't no kind of life, it makes me wanna scream. Let's round these motherfuckers up and get the guillotines. Get fucked. Oh, there it is. Get fucked. I didn't want this goddamn job anyway. Get fucked. Get fucked. You fucked around and found out. Go away. Yeah, fuck these guys, right? That's a great one. I need to keep that one in the mix. I tell you what. That reminds me of this is another one that I should keep in the mix. I've been in a real like a lot of the songs that I keep around me and a lot of the songs I end up playing are the more sentimental songs, yet very eloquent. Thank you, Monsieur. Thank you. I think so, right? I think that I've really captured in elocucious language the accuracy of the sentiment of the working class. Thank you, Simon. I appreciate it, my man. Come on. Where are you, Psychopath Nation? I used to have somebody in here that was always asking for Psychopath Nation. I don't see them around too much anymore, but that's life, isn't it? People fade out and people fade in, and that's just how it goes. We are all, after all, just shadows being reflected by a bright and beautiful light. And while we might fade away, while we might fade into the light itself will always remain. And so there's no reason to be afraid of anything. There's no reason to be scared of what's going on, right? That's the truth. There's no reason to be scared of anything, and there's no reason to be afraid of what's happening, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the water comes up, and if it doesn't matter that the fires come, and it doesn't matter, right? I would prefer it didn't, and I think that the Creator would prefer that it didn't, right? But if it does, well, then that just means that you and I, and all our friends and all our family and all of that will just cease being shadows and go into the light. Man, it's been a long time since I played this one. Let's see if I remember how to play it. Oh, I'm not even playing the right song. Okay. Burn yourself out for dollar bills. Kill your children for a few cheap thrills. You got a problem, well that's too bad. You're too tired to see you've been had. Work or starve while we drop bombs. No such thing as right or wrong. We'll call you lazy while you work to death. You gotta earn yourself a moment of rest. And I won't work for a psychopath nation. No, I won't work for a psychopath nation. Burn those corpses so you can speed. Buy the garbage you don't need. We'll play the victim while you lose your grip. We won't work in the apocalypse and retreat into your stupid lies. Act confused while your children cry. Promise change but act the same, and gaslight, deflect and take no blame. And I won't work for a psychopath nation. No, I won't work for a psychopath nation. As we collapse into the devil's lap, as we watch the world burn to ash, you whine like bitches on your way to the grave. Why won't those slaves just behave? You're fucking vampires, demons, and ghouls. We're done with being treated like fools. The curse is lifted, we're free from your spell. Keep on crying while you burn in hell, 'cause we won't work for a psychopath nation. No, we won't work for a psychopath nation. Yeah, we won't work for a psychopath nation. Yeah, a little rough around the gills, that one. But I think that's sort of the point. Supposed to be a little rough around the gills, I suppose. Another elocucious piece, yeah, absolutely. Like, this is a psychopath nation, right? Like, anybody want to stand in front of me? Anybody want to stand in front of me at any moment, right? It does make looking for a job complicated when your thoughts constantly scream, they're evil and I'd rather not. Yeah, like, you got to do what you got to do, right? You got to do what you got to do. That, like, one of the things I've been thinking about a lot recently, right, is that even the most banal talking point, even the most banal thing, like, as early as a generation ago, if you got into a conversation with somebody, you didn't know who they were, right? Or maybe you did, but you're just like a loose acquaintance or whatever, right? Well, what'd you talk about? Well, what would you talk about? Right? You just get into a random conversation, a random situation. Wow, sure is cold today. Man, that heat, eh? Oh boy, I tell you what, I haven't seen it this hot since I remember one time. Do you remember, Susie? Do you remember? We went down to the beach not that long ago, right? And it was so hot. And we forgot the sunscreen, and boy, howdy did I ever get a burn. Oh yeah, you were red like a lobster. Yeah, red like a lobster. Yeah, and I was burnt so bad. And like, you can talk about the weather. Anybody can talk to anybody about the weather. Well, here's the conversation that happens in my mind and that I don't actually have with people. Boy, what a beautiful day we're having today, yeah? Yeah, I can't wait until the fires start. Even the weather has now become controversial. Even the weather has now become something that we can't just have a talk. And not only can we not have a talk about it, we can't even build a consensus. We can't even say, like, hey, have you noticed that every single person who actually analyzes the subject walks away going, yeah, this is a crisis. And that the only people who don't walk away saying, yeah, this is a crisis, are directly paid by the people creating the crisis? Have you noticed that that's the case? I think my favorite thing that happens in today's society is that we send people to school, right, to learn everything they possibly can about climate science, right? They spend 8 years, 10 years, 12 years getting a PhD, writing a thesis, researching, studying, doing everything they can to know every single thing they can. They produce a paper, put it in front of a peer-reviewed board, have that board peer review it, check it out, make sure it's good, to say, congratulations, you did the thing. We all here agree that is an improvement and an increase in human knowledge. So some fucking asshole in a bar can go, sounds like a Chinese hoax to me. Western civilization just goes. Like, we are very dumb. We're very, very dumb. And with no light at the end of that tunnel. No light at the end of that tunnel. We really, really like it. We really like being that stupid. And and now it's gotten so bad. Now it's gotten so bad and so obvious and so ridiculous that even when I'm standing at like a bus stop and somebody I met one time comes in, or if I'm at work and one of my regular customers comes in, right? They'll walk in the door and they go, boy, it's sure nice out there today. Oh, what a beautiful day. I wore my jacket and I'm sweltering under here. Wow, what a great and beautiful day I'm having. And I just got to be like, yeah, great. Yeah, the weather. Nothing peculiar, odd, or strange about it. This is a normal thing that's definitely happening and is completely usual. Right? You can't actually say, yeah, it's going to get way hotter than this and those trees that are outside are going to ignite. You can't actually say, yeah, like there's going to be a massive crop die-off one year. We're going to get plunged into a pretty desperate famine, right? It's coming. It has to. In a very 1 + 1 = 2 sort of fashion. It has to go this way. Why? Because if the line keeps going up, right? If you take a pot of water and you put it on a stove and you turn the heat to hot, what should you expect to see? What should you expect to see? And if I say, well, I expect to see the water to boil, and the guy beside me says, that sounds like Chinese propaganda to me, then I think we have an issue. I think we've got a mental illness issue. I think that the society is collapsing into a kind of stupidity that cannot be articulated. Yeah. Bro, regionalism incoming, build the wall high. Oh, yeah. No, yeah. Like, all the stuff America is currently doing is going to get more... It's going to get tighter. Like, it's going to get normal. Right? Like, it's going to get normal. People are going to look at Trump. People are going to look at Trump and be like, remember when we had a normal president? People are going to look at Trump and just be like, yeah, Trump was, he was a decent president. He was a bit we will be saying to our children, no lie, we will be saying to our children, at the time, Donald Trump was really weird. Donald Trump, yeah, he came in and he was real odd and we were all like, whoa. Yeah, who's that? What? Donald, what? What? And it was a real moment for all of us. And our kids are going to be like, really? Oh. Okay. Trump seems so kind of banal. I guess he's got kind of a bombastic style about him, I suppose. But he didn't openly say that we should round up ethnic groups and purge them, right? He didn't openly say that he supported an open air prison and a massive genocide, right? He wasn't openly declaring that there is a superior species or a superior race, right? He wasn't openly saying that poor people are degenerates that we need to force into eugenics programs, right? He wasn't openly saying that stuff, right? Oh, okay. You guys thought Trump was odd. Oh. Just wait what's going to happen when Biden and Trump and all these guys start retiring, right? Wait for what happens when it's President Dan Crenshaw. Wait what's going to happen. We are going to get a whole bunch of these Marines and CIA operatives and FBI guys, right? Who right now are just getting into middle age, who like literally eye patch Dan Crenshaw, right? Like these absolute CIA torturer DeSantis, right? Like we are going to get these absolute ghouls. We're going to get these people who have been going overseas and on behalf of empire enacting complete torture campaigns, who are getting into politics because they're being well funded by industrial capitalists who are actually sitting there saying to themselves, yeah, this guy will do what I want, right? The Adolf Hitler situation, very straightforwardly, in a very straightforward kind of manner. Hold on one second, guys. My dog. Can you believe it? I'm at the behest of a pup. Can you believe it? Milo. Sure, bud. I am in the middle of a show, you know, my man. There's a dozen people out there. There you go, buddy. Well, we all have our masters, and mine is a dog. like the future generation is straight up gonna look at someone like Donald Trump and be like, I mean, I guess the orange thing was a bit weird, I suppose, right? I guess he had like kind of that showman way about him, I guess, but he wasn't like a total psychopath, you know? Like, say what you like about Trump, he's not a fucking psychopath. You could say that he's a narcissist. You can say that he's a scam artist. You can hit him with all kinds of stuff, right? But he's not like, let's go take skin off of somebody for fun, you know? Well, let's turn the corner here. Yeah, Orange Man bad, exactly. Let's turn the corner and take a look at one little piece of positive news. Airbnb operator says he's facing losses of hundreds of thousands of dollars because of BC's new short-term rental laws. You love to see it. Steve Nguyen runs 2 Airbnb units in downtown Victoria apartment buildings, including one decorated and paying homage to the television show Friends. He says he's still reeling from the news he soon won't be able to operate it as a short-term rental, since he doesn't live there. The news is a huge, huge shock, he said Tuesday. The equity that I've worked so hard in for these units has vanished in a day. Wah. Cavi Collin, BC's housing minister who tabled the new law Monday that imposed a principal residence requirement, said the rules don't come into play for a few months. The legislation doesn't come in until May 1st, so individuals do have some time, whether they want to rent them out for long term or whether they want to sell them, said Callan Tuesday. Nguyen says he makes enough by renting out his unit on Airbnb to cover its mortgage, even with interest rates spiking, but because the unit is so small, less than 400 square feet, it's not attractive for long-term rental, and he wouldn't fetch enough to cover his mortgage, which is for more than $3,000 a month. You cannot make the numbers work. You're better off putting your money in a GIC. Go get a job, you fucking parasite. Go get a fucking job, you worthless parasite. The guy's sitting there being like, oh, I can't sell it to cover my own mortgage and do nothing because I'm a parasite. As a result, he says he's forced to sell the loft unit. So the system works right in front of your face, but plans to list it for $150,000 less than he bought it for a year ago. Good, lose money. I hope you lose your shirt. I hope you lose I hope you lose more than $150,000. I hope you lose $1 million. I hope that you're crying to your friends in your 80s about this moment. Its value walloped because in a matter of months it will no longer be usable in most cases as an Airbnb. Good, great, perfect. The system works. The revenue stream dictates the value, he said, noting that revenue stream will soon dry up for short-term rentals. Good, system works, which had been earning him between $80 and $225 per night. The new rules, aimed at creating more long-term rentals, are also causing concern in the hospitality industry. Ian Tostenson, Head of the BC Restaurant and Food Services Association worries there won't be enough hotel rooms to cover demand in Victoria and Vancouver once many short-term rentals disappear. In the worst-case scenario, it would mean fewer people, fewer tourists coming to British Columbia in the big regions because they can't get accommodation, said Tostenson. The government acknowledges potential tourism impacts of the proposed legislation, but calls it a balancing act, noting the spillover effect of the housing crisis on tourism itself. Homeless people starving to death in the streets, rich cocksuckers who want a vacation in Vancouver. Yeah. Rich cocksuckers do have a lot of money they like to waste on bottles of wine and hookers. But we do have a moral responsibility to the citizens of our nation. Like, Mirska, I'm going to just say straight up, I do not cheerlead Trump. Trump's just another capitalist. Like, he's not going to do anything to help me, right? Although I do think that in terms of the lesser of two evil argument, which I don't subscribe to, if you want to have that conversation, I do think Trump is actually the lesser of two evils. He's more bombastic. He's not as boring as Biden is, but Biden is like a psycho. Like, Biden's just like a straight up, like, I'm a Zionist. It's totally cool to impoverish black people. Here's the crime bill. Like, Donald Trump is just kind of like, I could be president. Yeah, I'll be president and less taxes for me. Build that wall. Ha, yeah. Hey, look, I said build that wall and everybody cheered. Build the wall. Yeah, I like it when they cheer. That's basically Donald Trump, right? Like, Biden's a true dyed-in-the-wool, like, let's go fuck some people up. I mean, and so is Trump. Like, he's honestly, like, Trump has, like, a rape case. Like, he went to Jeffrey Epstein's pedophile island. Like, it's a shit show all around, which is why true revolution is the solution. Restaurants can't find employees because they can't afford to live in a community. Yeah. Like, who cares about these rich cocksuckers, right? Paul Nursey with Destination Greater Victoria said the city's tourism industry supports the new short-term rental rules. Yeah, because it's the rich psychos who own the restaurants own the short-term rentals, right? Do you understand how this always works, right? It's the same as, like, the Virginia coal mine owners own the houses that they rent to the people who work on the coal mines. And they also own the general store that the people have to buy from. And so what do? They jack the prices of everything and they lower the wages, plunging everybody into indentured servitude. That's the goal. And along comes a piece of legislation that says, no, we're not going to let you do that. And of course, the restaurateurs who are the short-term home own rentals, like, they're the ones doing it. They're going to go, and what we should do is seize their assets and chase them out of the industry completely. And the workers should own the means of production. People own 2, 4, 6, 20, 40, 60 units, and that takes away from housing for our residents, including our workers, says Nursey. Oh, look, the most reasonable, rational thing I've seen in any paper in the last, 10 years. But Nugent, who's already laid off the staff he employs to keep the units clean, calls himself and former staff collateral damage. Yeah. No, dude, hold on. Time out. You are not collateral damage. You are damage. You understand? We're trying to damage you. Do you understand? Like, we're not sitting here going, oh, oopsie, side effect. We are going, oh, good, you're unemployed. Fuck off, get a job. Oh, good. Your parasitical system that should have never existed in the first place is gone, and you are suffering for it. Hooray! Capitalists are suffering! Yay! I hope you suffer. I hope you cry at night. Go get a job, you parasite. Oh, not collateral damage. Just damage. Resist says Trump's more incompetent. He's more likely to provoke a faster decline of the U.S. empire. I mean, I don't think so. Like, that sort of subscribes to the great man theory. I like the society is in decline, right? And when societies go into decline, it's a much bigger issue than like my leader, right? That's not what's really at like part of the issue is that the citizens themselves are like this, right? That there are groups of citizens that are just like, I want my house to be worth $5 million. I want my house to be 5 million. House go up. Good. Yeah. And it doesn't matter if 100,000 people need to be poor in the streets. Doesn't matter. The value of my house went up. So who are you going to sell that to? My house is worth $5 million. Okay, so who are you going to sell that to? Well, I'll sell it to somebody and I'll buy. Okay, then where will you live? You going to buy a house for less than $5 million? Look around. No. But my house is worth $5 million. And then you know what's going to happen to these guys? They're going to die in that house, right? Their $5 million house. Then they'll die in it, right? Congratulations, your tombstone was $5 million. Like, so who cares if your house is worth $100,000 or $5 million if your goal is just to die in it? The number went up! The number! It's so high! Like, we are in a moment that is actually worse than the movie Idiocracy. If you're unfamiliar with the movie Idiocracy, it has become like the sort of... it has become the like talking point amongst the left to point out that like, man, things are getting dumb. It's like Idiocracy. Everybody's stupid. We are dumber than the people in the movie Idiocracy. The leader of the American people, Camacho, right? He acknowledged there was a problem, sought someone out who he felt could solve that problem. And you know what happened? The problem was solved. That makes the leader in the movie Idiocracy more competent and capable than the last 10 United States presidents. We are stupider than Idiocracy by a lot. Yeah, broken system, broken people, right? And we've been rendered stupid. Like we're getting stupider. Like it's pretty amazing how obvious it's going to get. Other nations are actually educating their kids, right? Go take a look at what math looks like in China for kids. Go take a look at what an education system looks like in China, right? Do you think the next generation of kids here in America is going to be able to look at the Chinese and be like, yeah, we can take you in a one-to-one battle? No. Like, no, we're not going to. It's just straight up the truth. We are not going to win that fight, period, straight up. Why? Because we don't educate our kids. We indoctrinate our kids into a religious ideology that is failing, that is in decline and is failing. It's going to happen either way, but it might be a bit quicker with Trump. You know what, Resist Colonizers? I know what you're saying, but I think that like I'm taking just a little bit wider view. I think that like just because like Trump is going to put in things or do things that is going to make a dissent happen, but I think that's just the trend of the line. You know what I mean? Like I think that it's like if it's not Trump, it's someone else. You know, because the system can only regurgitate these guys. And it's all just going to go that way. And I do think that what Donald Trump does and what he has done and so doing things like honoring a Nazi in Parliament, like what it does is it enables Nazis, right? It enables people who are of that who have that kind of proclivity. And so it seems like it increases or accelerates the decline, but in reality, it's like an aspect of the decline. That the decline is happening, and then these moments happen that accelerate it. And Trump is that moment. Trump is that. And so I just don't think it's a personal thing. You know what I mean? Anyway. Yeah. Speaking of that Nazi invitation, Liberals and NDP MPs vote to keep the Nazi invitation inquiry behind closed doors. Conservative MPs on the House of Commons Procedure Committee blasted Liberal and NDP colleagues for voting to make an inquiry into the invitation of a Nazi soldier to the House of Commons last month private and unavailable to the general public. Well, why? Why? It was just, Rhoda invited him, right? Like, that's what happened. Rhoda invited him, didn't tell anybody who this guy was, right? Just stood up randomly during a meeting, right? Where all the parliamentarians were there with Zelensky, right? And he just read from a piece of paper the history of Hunka, and nobody knew, and everybody was just like, well, let's go along with this. Oh my goodness, right? Like, that's the story, right? What's the inquiry? Why are we hiding it? Right? Why even have the inquiry? Right? If that's the story, right? Everybody agrees. Nobody's disagreeing with that story, right? Like, that's just the story, right? The newspaper said it for 2 weeks straight, just blasting it at our ears constantly over and over and over again, right? That's the story, right? Oh, turns out, once again, here at the Canadian Commie, we called it correctly. That the Liberals absolutely know who Hunka is. They absolutely know 100% that there is an inquiry going into that invitation that's happening, that's going to show everybody very clearly and plainly that the Liberals 100% knew who that guy was. Right? And they honored him anyway. Why? Because the Liberals want, and the people within the Liberal Party would like to show to their Nazi people who they collaborate with, right? Because the Liberal Party is a Nazi collaborationist party. They want to show to the Nazis they collaborate with that we're with you, right? No greater act in the last 50 years have enabled Nazis in this country than this. This is an incredible moment for Canada. And the fact that they are hiding it, the fact that they are saying, no, we're going to hide this inquiry, we don't want anybody to know, shows you that we are correct. We are absolutely correct. The Liberals knew who this guy was. They invited him anyway. Like, the number one tell that shows you that their story of, like, Rhoda invited him, the Speaker of the House invited him, right? Is that when the Speaker of the House read the paper he was given to introduce this guy, there's this moment. It's my favorite. I highlighted it in the video that I made where he says, he's a Ukrainian who fought against the Russians in World War II. And then he paused and raised his eyebrows and then continued reading. So there was a clear moment with this Rhoda guy where he had a dawning realization in the moment that he was introducing a Nazi in the parliament. So he had never met this guy. He didn't know who this guy was. And he was just reading a cue card. And just went, oh, and just thought it was more prudent to continue forward with his job than to go, holy shit, this guy's a Nazi. Can you imagine if he had of? Can you imagine if Rhoda had gone, a Ukrainian who fought against the Russians in World War II? Wait a minute, this guy's a Nazi. That really would have been absolutely just like, I hope that there's an alternative timeline somewhere. I hope, you know what? I don't hope. I know that in the infinite reality of existence, in the constant, perpetual, multi-dimensional universe that we live in, that there is a universe, and a series of universes, in fact, where Rhoda went, wait a minute, this guy's a Nazi. And boy, that's the universe, man. I would love, I'd be sitting here and we'd be going, oh my God, can you believe it? He read it and he just called it. He just called it out on the spot. And he went, this guy's a Nazi. I resign. And just walks out. Oh, I would have lived for that. That would have been the greatest moment. I would be playing that in the background right here. It'd be right here. I would have a photo frame of Hunka's resignation right here under the Canadian flag. That's exactly what I would have done. If he had done that, it would have been him holding up the card and just being like, I resign. I just would have been like, fuck. Yes, there are people of moral conscience who exist in the country, and there is one. And I believe that there is a universe in which that happened. right? I don't enjoy this multiverse timeline we're in now. It's got to be like when they rolled a 1 in Community, the darkest. This is not the darkest timeline, but it's definitely in the bottom. It's definitely in the bottom, for sure. We're in the bottom 50%, for sure. That there's a top 50% and there's a bottom 50%, and we're in the bottom, for sure. Like, we can have a discussion about the degree, but this is not the darkest. We could be a lot darker than this. We could be a lot darker than this. Milo, dude. That's nothing. My guy. My little Milo is just like, oh, let me lick the thing. Let me lick the thing. I want to lick the thing, Jonathan. Please, let me just sniff it. I mean, when your life is just food, right? Like, that's your whole life. I know where you guys are coming about Trump, but he made America a much worse place for minorities. It's true. I can't go with that personally. I think that's true. Yeah. Like, look, here's the full thing. Just to make my position on it completely clear, okay? And I do want to make it completely clear. I only engage in the lesser of two evil conversation out of entertainment and curiosity. I don't believe in it. I don't care to engage in it. I think it's good to say that Trump made America a much worse place for minorities, okay? But if you're going to follow that up with, and that's why you have to vote Democrats, I'm going to stop you right there, right? Democrats and Republicans are allies. They work together. They work together. That Trump might be in that moment the tip of the spear on that particular issue, but the Democrats are the haft, right? They're the ones holding the spear. They're the ones thrusting. You need the haft of the spear in order to have a tip of the spear. And the Democrats and the Republicans switch positions on certain issues. That the Democrats don't actually work in the favor of minorities. They just don't allow things to get worse for minorities, right? For a very brief period of time until the Republicans come in and then do that thing, which the Democrats essentially approve of because they're allies, right? They're allies and they work with Republicans. And they work in order to pass the ball back and forth to maintain the dictatorship of capital. That they are both capitalists, and they find issues, wedge issues, in order to divide the public on purpose so that they get caught in this lesser of two evil argument. But at the end of the day, you're still voting for capitalists, right? You're still voting for a system of capital. And moreover, the system is designed to act this way. That the Democrats don't want to come in and do something big that will actually be like concrete, real, tangible change to improve the lot in life for minority groups. Because if they do that, they'll gain too much support. And then the Republicans will never be able to have the ball passed over to them. And that will raise the standard of the country and the expectation of the country, which the capitalists don't want. That the goal of the capitalists is to decline the standard of living and decline the expectation of people in the society so that they will, what? Accept worse wages and accept worse conditions, which translates for the capitalist into higher profits. So that's my position. I only engage in the, well, Trump did this and Biden did this and back and forth they go. I only do that for fun. Because sometimes it's fun to engage in the WWE conversation. It's fun to engage in the like, oh, did you see what Hulk Hogan said? Oh, he went for the elbow drop, but then, oh my God, the Undertaker got him, right? It's fun to engage in the conversation, but it's choreographed, right? Like, it's choreographed, it's planned, it's scripted. They know what's going to happen. They understand what is happening. That the disagreements that exist between them exist specifically so that they can purposefully pass the baton from one to the other. That if there is actually a tension that exists between Like, I think that there was a real tension that did actually genuinely exist between Hillary and Trump. But that tension wasn't, we, the Democrats, are going to improve the quality of life, and we, the Republicans, think that we want to go down a different path for the people. It was Hillary wanted to be president, and Trump wanted to be president. That we didn't watch a fight for the soul of the nation. We didn't watch a fight to go down one timeline or another for any of these, like, all that kind of stuff. We watched a vanity project where fundamentally two of the participants of Capital, two of the members of the WWE system, two American idols came out and sang their hearts out in front of the nation, right? And they sang their hearts out, and they really wanted to win. They really wanted to win, right? Hillary, Donald. You got Donnie Trump coming out there, and he's a rough and tumble with the orange hair. He's got the personality. He's willing to say some rough and tumble things, but I'm Donnie. Vote Donnie. Then you got Hillary. Strong, stable, standard, the insider. Here to represent the voice of women. Coming out. Vote Hillary. Right? And if it had gone Hillary's way, you know what would have happened? The same. The same shit would have happened. And if they had voted for Donald, you know what happened? The same shit. Right? Maybe slightly different. Maybe a little bit differently. You know? Maybe ICE gets a little bit less funding. You know? Maybe Homeland Security gets a little more funding. Right? But the system of capital stays exactly the same. And the owners of the society are still the owners of the society. Right? And they are completely unconfronted. And basically get what they want. So like, Hillary and Donald Trump was just a vanity project. And Trump versus Biden was just a vanity project. Like, these elections are vanity projects amongst people who go, I want to be president. Yeah, look at me. I get to put the big boy pants on, and now I'm the president. And I'm the guy that gets to pick up the phone and say, what's that, Mr. Buffett? You got it. I'm the important guy, and I get to sign my signatures on that legislation. I'm the president. Me, Donnie Trump. I get to be the president of the United States of America. What's that, General? You got it. Like, that's what's happening. Like, that's what's actually happening. So, getting all wound up and getting into this position of just like, oh, we gotta get Biden. Any blue will do. Any blue will do. Any blue will do. It's getting caught up in the game. It's getting caught up in the game. And believing that the game is real when it isn't. It's not even close. It's just a game that the capitalists are playing in order to maintain the system of capital. And that because the end of the system of capital is the people coming together in a group going, wait a minute, these fucking capitalists are worthless. Not only are they worthless, they're completely detrimental to what we're doing. They're worse than worthless. They're a drain. They're destroying our society. They're destroying our air. They're destroying our water. They're destroying every single aspect of our society and our community. They're destroying everything for money, for themselves. And what are they spending that money on? Jeffrey Epstein's pedophile island. That's what they're spending their money on. So you know what we should do? We should all get together under a single party called the Anti-Capitalist Party and say, if you're a capitalist, we consider you a threat, and our goal is to eliminate capitalism from the borders of America. And if that party got together and actually started to engage with the system, they'd do away with the system. And they would just rule mask off. Like, you understand the game that's happening. Like, the system of democracy as it exists in America is the game that capitalists play instead of just ruling through violence and fear. That's the game we are given to play. And I, for one, am sort of tired of that game. I'd like their masks to come off so that we can just live in the world for real. And so that the bullshit goes away. Like, if we're going to be ruled by terrorists and psychopaths,
I'd like to see it. And I'd like to know who is actually a psychopath around me. Or who at least is pro-psychopath. Because right now, people are in this kind of bullshit phase. Okay. Sure, bud. Vote blue no matter who. And go support Israel, right? Yeah. Got it. So that's my position. That's my position. That it is something of an inevitability that the people of America, should they wish to be ruled and governed by themselves for their own benefit and freely, it will eventually take the people of America themselves coming together, banding together, and forcefully forcing capitalists from their midst. That is what it will fundamentally, by definition, take. Because the capitalists will simply not permit you to vote them out. They would prefer to destroy the system itself, which I think is the process that they're undergoing now. I think that they are undergoing that process now, that they are planning on getting rid of it, because they are beginning to see how the system of capital, the democratic structure, they are starting to see how that is something of a threat for them. It's a threat. That enough people are starting to pop up in the Democratic Party who are playing the game of reformation, who are saying, like, hey, we could do reasonable, rational stuff, that it's only a matter of time until some of those people start to get enough power within the system of democracy. And it's very threatening to think that one of them might actually stand up and say, wait a minute, why are we even answering these guys' phone calls? Why are we even answering the phone when Jeff Bezos calls? Why are we even picking up the phone when Elon Musk calls? Why are we bringing Mark Zuckerberg here to talk to him? Who cares what they think or say? We are here to debate amongst ourselves what should be done about these guys. We don't need to hear what they say. We know what they're going to say. So let's just pass the legislation and tell them to fucking deal with it. And once that starts happening, well, you got to either get rid of those people, and if you can't get rid of those people, you get rid of the system itself. Corey Owens, so what's the play? How do we get the ball going? We must organize outside of the system of capital. We have to organize ourselves, your friends, your families, your coworkers, every single person who will go along with these ideas. We have to organize in groups that are explicitly anti-capitalist by the definition of their society. And I'm using the word anti-capitalist specifically here because I don't want you to think we have to be communist or anarchist or any kind of ist. Any anti-capitalist will do at this point. But your organization must be, by definition, built into its constitution, anti-capitalist. And if someone stands up and says, well, we could do capitalism, they should be purged from the ranks by a process of the system itself. And we have to build these coalitions and build these organizations from the basement up so that as the system of capital begins to collapse, there are substructures and systems of mutual aid that have already been built. And I know that sounds a pie in the sky-ish, perhaps, but it isn't. It's literally how politics works, actually and literally. That you go and you talk to your neighbors, You go and you find the people who see things as you do, and you build coalitions and you build groups so that you can actually be a bloc, so that you can actually be a group that has leverage and can do things together as a bloc. And that's where we are. It is time, very explicitly, it is time to say to the liberals, conservatives, NDP, Green, Republicans, and Democrats, go fuck yourselves. And it is time to abandon them and tell them that they are being abandoned. Tell them who you are supporting, tell them why you are supporting them. And to tell these capitalist psychopath parties, you do not get my support, and to destroy them. Abandon them back. And if they start saying, well, if you don't vote for me, then the other guy will get in, say, I don't care. I'm not interested in playing your dumb capitalist game that is obviously failing us. Fuck off. These people are not your allies. They are your enemies, and we should treat them as such and say so to their face, so that they understand how badly they are fucking up. And eventually there will come a point where these coalitions will build, and these coalitions will gain power, and these coalitions will grow, and the capitalists will attempt to infect them. And it should be your goal to specifically say, oh, this person used to work for the liberals and is now trying to become a member of our organization. No. Tainted, corrupt, goodbye. No. Oh, but I was mistaken and now I don't care. Goodbye. We are at a point now where we must acknowledge that the political system and the system of capital is utterly corrupted. And it is time for us to build alternative coalitions. And the only way you're going to do that, and Corey, you're not going to like this. I don't like it for myself. I'm actually an introvert. I'm a very private person in my life. In my work, I'm very outgoing, right? When I go to work, I am the outgoing person. I know how to negotiate with people and talk to people, right? In my day-to-day life, in my normal life, I'm a very, very private, introverted person. I hate the advice I'm going to give, but it is what must be done. You've got to knock on the door of your neighbor. You've got to learn their name. And you've got to talk to them about this. Because when the collapses begin to happen, and they're happening, when the collapses begin to happen, your neighbor is the only person you've got. And your neighbors are the only people who can even have your back. And so we have to build power. We have to build power as locally as possible. Get to know your neighbors, start an organization, give it a name, make it explicitly anti-capitalist, hold regular meetings. Once a month, go meet at the local bar. Have a pub night. Throw a party. Specifically anti-capitalist. Make speeches. Play music. That's all we've got left. We have been abandoned. And the goal of the system of capital now is to harvest us like a crop. To keep us playing a game so that the capitalists can kind of justify to themselves their failed system that exploits us. Abandon it. Completely. Pay it no mind. if they whinge at you and say, if you don't vote blue, then the other guy gets in, say, I don't care. You are the same. You are allies. You work together. Because they do. I see USA collapse in 2024. You can't call a date. Like, it's just going to decline. Like the Roman Empire declined. Nobody can point at the moment, right? There's no moment. It's just going to go into a decline. And it is in a decline. And it's just going to get more and more a decline. And there will be moments that people will point at and be like, well, when Trump was elected, oh, you know, when these two groups had an internal civil war, when this happened, when that happened. But it's just all the same decline, right? That there was like and it happens so kind of slowly over time. And there are shock points, like 9/11 was a shock point, right? But 9/11 wasn't actually this big pivot moment if you were living in Afghanistan, right? If you were living in the Middle East, 9/11 was just like a punch back, right? And Americans just like kind of woke up and went, history started today. Oh my God, Muslims. This is live, Coda. Yeah, sorry I'm not responding to the guys on Twitch. I got into a bit of a rant. And when I get into a rant, please feel free to, I do try to engage as best I can, guys. But if you hang around for any length of time, you're gonna hear me do that kind of stuff. Yeah. Promotion for my kind of thing. You just do it then. Apostle O says, as an ignorant American, I am getting that in Canada, the two major parties are conservatives and liberals. They are essentially evil and evil light. No, just evil. Like the American and Republican and Democratic parties. No, just evil. Like, forget this evil light. That the difference between conservatives and liberals is very similar to the difference between Democrats and Republicans, which is that Republicans don't care to look good, right? A conservative and a Republican is a person that's going to stand up in front of you and say, look, life's hard, toughen up, pull yourself out of your bootstraps, you got to do it for yourself, nobody's going to help you, you got to toughen up and work hard. And oh, by the way, work starts at 8, I'm going to lower your wages, and if you don't like it, go work for somebody else, tough shit. Right? That's a conservative. Okay? So there's a kind of honesty to it. There's a kind of honesty to the tough shit attitude that the conservatives had. The conservatives have. Just like, fuck you, work hard, shut up. I don't give a shit about what happened 20 years ago. I don't give a shit about what happened yesterday. Right? Oh, it happened so long ago. Why are you still crying about it? Toughen up. Life's not hard. Life's hard. Life's tough. Too bad. Right? And in many ways, you can be kind of sympathetic to people who have this kind of mindset because it's obviously coming from a place of deep trauma. Like, they themselves have been obviously traumatized. They have severe daddy issues, right? Most of the time, they're doing what they're doing because their dad told them. You know, there's all that kind of shit. And you know what? Sometimes it works. Like, that's the other side of it that conservatives will point out. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it's like, yeah, you know, I was sitting there, I was feeling sorry for myself, I was down on my luck, and then I just pulled myself out of my bootstraps, I started working hard, I got tough, and now I got a family, I got a job, you know? So sometimes it works. So, like, you know, liberals, in my mind, are actually worse. Because a liberal will listen to your complaints and listen to what you say, and then go, I feel, you know, you're right. That's tough. I feel bad. And you know, if you vote for me, we'll do something about that. And then they don't. And then they fuck you over. Right? That the analogy I like to use when it comes between Democrats and Republicans and liberals and conservatives is an election happens and the conservative stands up and says, I'm going to punch you in the face. And the liberal goes, I will not punch you in the face. And so people go, well, I'll vote for the guy that's telling me he's not going to punch me in the face. And then that guy wins, and then the very first thing he does is he walks up to you and he punches you in the face. Okay? Now, if you vote for the Republican, you get punched in the face. But you see it coming, you can brace for it, because he told you he was going to do it, and then he did it. If you vote for the liberal or the Democrat, When you get punched in the face, it'll be at the moment you're the weakest and you'll never see it coming. Who's worse? And besides, at the end of the day, they're allies and they work together, right? So you get punched in the face no matter what. Maybe, crazy thought, hold on, stop voting for capitalists. Stop supporting the system of capital. Stop pretending as though the system of capital will resolve itself, because it won't. And begin organizing anti-capitalist organizations on purpose. And tell people who are organizing in capitalist organizations to fucking stop. It's never going to happen. They're never going to allow it to happen. I think that the people who are organizing within capitalist organizations are doing so out of a sense of total desperation. Well, it's time to get smarter. And it's no less desperate to organize outside the system of capital than attempt to pretend as though organizing within the system of capital will benefit you. Because it won't. It's a dead end. So take the desperation that you're feeling and put it down a path that might actually work. Because working with capitalists and working within the system of capital is not going to work. The only time you can work with capitalists is if they are in the subordinate position. But you can't have that unless you are in charge of the government. And that's just not happened. It's just not going to happen. Corey writes, even friends who are into more socialist ideology, proposing any action is met with a lot of resistance, even boycotts. Hell, we're using Google and Amazon services to have this conversation now. Yeah, I don't really care about that, my man, because it's like you eat the king's crop and yet are critical of the king. Like, you got to do what you got to do, right? You got to do what you got to do. Like, the alternative is to not have the conversation, right? Because this is the communication network. We privatized the communication system. We shouldn't have, but we did, right? Yep. But Bosun's getting it right. The seeds are germinating. 2024 election will be rough. Shut up, wage slave. I need to make a profit. Exactly, dude. Exactly. No, we're in a wild time right now. I think the thing that makes it the wildest is how much denialism exists. Like, how much people deny that wage slavery exists. How much people deny that the system of capital is obviously a slave system, like it requires it, that if the capitalists had to actually pay people what they were worth, they would cease to exist, right? Because there would be no profit in it. So they have to exploit you, and they have to create desperate situations to make that exploitation easier. Yeah, the conservatives believe the capitalists know what's best, the man knows what's best. Yeah. Jefferson writes, from the outside, both Republicans and Democrats are evil. Indeed, Obama was one of the main reasons Brazil falling to the far right. He also destroyed our construction industry and more. I mean, Obama, like, you can have debates about a lot of things that Obama... Most presidents have one moment that you can point to and be like, oh yeah, that was, like, objectively the darkest and evilest thing a human being can do. And Obama's was Libya. There's no reason to talk about, when it comes to Obama, there's no reason to talk about anything else, right? You can get into this kind of like, well, you know, he had to do this, and there's a tough situation, and there's, you know, a president's got to make tough choices, and like there's all that kind of hand-wringing. None of that exists around Libya. They saw what Libya was doing. They understood what Libya represented. They knew that Libya was a threat. So they went in there and they destroyed it. And they laughed about it when they did it. Like, it was a moment that was objectively, on the face of it, no defense can be mounted whatsoever, bleak and evil. It was something that the devil would have done. Like, very, very straightforward. Libya was the strongest economy on the African continent, being led by Gaddafi through Marxist principles. Gaddafi staged a bloodless coup against a king in order to take power in Libya and started to raise the quality of life of the Libyans using Marxist principles immediately. His goal, ultimately, was to create a federated Africa. and to begin getting more nations, more of the colonial nation states into a greater Libya, and to create a larger federated body of Libya in order to unify the African people. And a unified Africa is an enormous threat to finance capital. It is an enormous threat to finance capital. And so they didn't even use an excuse when it came to Libya. They didn't even create an excuse. This is why all this false flag conversation that I talk about with Libya, with Israel, or with any of this kind of stuff, like, America no longer needs false flags. It doesn't use them. It doesn't require them. It doesn't need to talk to its own citizens. Like, nobody knows about Libya. Libya is just like this event that occurred within the war on terror. Nobody knows where Libya is. Nobody knows the history of Libya. Nobody knows anything about Libya. And so you know what they did? They just funded far-right groups like they always do. They murdered Gaddafi and they destroyed the country. Like, they did it systematically, they did it intentionally, and they did it on purpose, and they didn't need a false flag to do so. They just did it. And then they didn't say anything about it. They didn't celebrate it in the media. They just did so quietly. Like, that's Obama. That's what Obama did. And now you go to Libya and it's got open air slave prisons, slave camps. There are warlords that are just constantly fighting one another. Like, that's what capitalism did. There's your capitalist innovation right there, and that's Obama. Thanks, Obama. Zian, good to see you. Capitalists are always sabotaging any movement that even threatens to serve working class people. It's wild they're thought of as good guys. Yeah, it's wild that anybody would even say that there is a lesser of two evils, right? At this point, it's like voting Beelzebub or Malfarcion or something, right? Like, it's literally two demons just standing in front of you, all of who work for the devil. Like, who they both work for Lucifer, right? And they're just standing in front of you being like, vote Beelzebub for one less whipping a day. If you vote for Malfarcion, I'll give you 30 seconds to have a pee break every morning. Like, why are we participating in this? What are you talking about? Like, and nobody is more delusional than the people who are actually supporters. Nobody's more delusional than the people who are just like, NDP for me. Nobody's more delusional than these guys who actually think that their system has not fallen into total finance capital, who actually somehow think that their guy is going to do it. Like, no. It's all a vanity project. They just want to be the prime minister. Yeah, and let's not forget the West signed a deal with Gaddafi to trade his WMDs for normalizations just a few years before. Yeah. Like, Libya stands as a big, big moment for the world. And nations of the world have absolutely pointed it out and have said so. That, like, why would I ever get rid of my weapons of mass destruction? Look what happened to Gaddafi. Right? Yeah, Corey, exactly. Don't blame me. I voted for Kodos. Exactly. Jefferson, Libya had free election, free healthcare. Gaddafi was working towards creating a Pan-Africa currency. Yeah, it's no wonder they were killed by the U.S. Yeah, he was a major threat. No, he was a major threat. And they didn't create an excuse at all. Like, that's the thing, right? Usually America plays this game of like, oh my God, there was a crisis. We got to get in there, right? They usually create an excuse. Like, even with Iraq, there was an excuse, right? We got to go in there and fight the terrorists. You got WMDs. We got to go in there, WMDs. It turned out to be a lie, right? Obama didn't even create an excuse. He was just like, kill Gaddafi. And they did. That's what it looks like, and that's what happened. Like, it's pretty bleak, pretty scary. So in many ways, like, Obama is worse than Bush, right? Because at least Bush was like, he's harboring terrorists, and he's got weapons of mass destruction. We got to go in there and get those weapons of mass destruction away from this man terrorist. Right? So at least there was a narrative that was created that had a logic to it of some kind. Even though it ended up being phony, it was a total bullshit lie, at least they felt the need to create a narrative and say to the American people, yeah, like, we have a reason. Like, we're not just going in there as psychopaths to steal oil. Right? But, like, Obama didn't do any of that. He just was like, yeah, okay. Just fuck you, Libya. And if any American stood up and said, hey, whoa, doesn't that make you a raving psychopath? He could just be like, well, sometimes an American president needs to make tough decisions for America. And that'd be it. That'd be the only thing that would happen. Kevin, good to see you, my man. Hi again. Hi to you, my man. It's important to educate yourself and others around you about self and local subsistence. Don't rely on government to help you through times and needs. Build power among neighbors and friends. Yeah, mutual aid. Like, let people know that if they need something moved, like if they need help moving a couch, like we really are in a place of like little things count and little things matter. Like bake cookies, like just do anything. At this stage in the game, anything counts. Because like, I think the hallmark of our generation and what I hear nobody talks about, is that we have been abandoned. That we are living through a period of abandonment. That the systems that we used to rely on to support us, and that did support us, have now turned against us, and have said so openly. That they do not exist to support life, family, jobs, prosperity. They openly tell us that the goal now is to destroy the economy, is to destroy the society. They openly say these things, and their actions tell us that it's the case. So all of the institutions that used to actually exist to support the family, that used to exist to support employment, to increase education, to do these kinds of stuff, have turned against us completely. We have been utterly abandoned. And because they have so much power, because they have so much wealth, because they've got so much, they don't even need to like roll troops through. They don't need to do any of that. They just need to withhold their capital. That's it. And because they have such an enormous monopoly power, because they have such enormous wealth, that by itself is an act of destitution. That by withdrawing their power, by withdrawing their influence, it renders us destitute. Like, this is why the system of capital needs to be completely destroyed. Because we cannot organize a society on the whims of a psychopath class. Because the psychopath class will simply withdraw, if not for profit, then for its own pleasure. Yeah, Trudeau is definitely an Ottawa corporate puppet. Of course he is. Like literally the carbon tax was the fossil fuel industry's idea. Like, straight up. This whole, like, we're fighting climate change. We here in Canada care about the issue of climate change and are going to do something about it by going to the fossil fuel industry and using their idea. The very people responsible for creating the problem. We're going to use their idea. Yeah, right. Drina Marie, they only have power because of us people. I mean, that is true. I mean, I would argue that they have power because there is a social agreement that they have control of the means of production. And so in that way, that's correct. That if all of the citizens of America stood up, looked at Jeff Bezos, looked at Elon Musk, looked at Mark Zuckerberg, looked at Buffett, looked at the billionaire class and said, we are no longer willing to work for you at all, period. That would be the end of them, right? That if there was an empty apartment building that was owned by some psychopath capitalist and people just went in and inhabited it and said, we don't care that they own it because they earned it, because their daddy had it. We don't care. And if there was no police willing to go in there and clear them out, and if the society just said, like, yeah, those people should be there because apartment buildings exist for people to live in, then yeah, that would be the end of their power completely. But they do have power outside of people. And their power and influence exists in a more theological sense. That we have created currencies and we have created systems that are very enticing, right? Like, a capitalist can walk up to literally anybody, open up a briefcase with $1 million of it in it, and say, I want you to do something for me. Lots of people are going to say yes. Lots of people are going to say yes. Like, and that's the power. That fundamentally, it is a person that needs to agree to that. But that $1 million, the power that represents, the influence that has, the hold that has on a people. But it is also true to say that the only reason that money has power is because we as people give it power. That if literally the entire populace all at once says, we no longer accept dollars, that's it. It's over. Dollars have no value, say we the people. Then that would be it. But that's not the case. That there are institutional power structures. And those institutional power structures maintain their power. And yes, they maintain their power through people, but those people will draw a little border around themselves and say, you come in here and we will fuck you up. That's exactly what they've done. Canada sort of allowed soulless corporations to take over. No, Crow Guy, the soulless corporations were always in control. Right? We're just coming to a moment of realization, just a raising in our consciousness to realize that is the case. That the corporations were always in control. Like, it's especially true with Canada, actually. It's more true with Canada than the United States. Like, for a period of time, Canada really was the Hudson's Bay Corporation, or the Hudson's Bay Company. That the expansionism and the heading into the wilderness and all of that, and a lot of the warring and everything, was the Hudson's Bay Company, right? A crown corporation going into Canada, rounding up indigenous population, forcing them into work, right? Kevin just subbed on Patreon. Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that. I will give you the Discord link after the show. Okay, bud? Thank you so much. A good opportunity to say like, share, subscribe, hit the bells, hit the whistles, do the stuff, guys. The money is nice. Thank you so much. If I ever get enough so that I can pay my rent with just this, then this will be my job. And that's my pledge and that's my promise. One of the things that gets me so excited about getting a roommate into this space and having my rent is that it makes this goal much more attainable. It puts it closer into reach. That rather than just me doing 3 days a week of live casting, I can do 5 days a week, and then I can also go to any protest, and then I can also make videos. I can make more content. I can do more stuff. And so my pledge to everybody out there is that if I can ever get to a point where I can pay my rent with this, I will just do this. And my capitalist job will go away. And I will do everything I can to continue fighting against the system of capital. And continue this work that I do. And I'm so happy that you guys are out there thinking that what I'm doing is valuable. And that every single time I hit record, there's someone there listening. And even when they purge me, and they will, even when they purge me, that I have people who will continue listening in, and that I will continue this process, and I will never stop. And so more than the money, please tell people I exist. Please let people know. And please let people know where to find me and where to go. Please let people know. That matters more to me than the money. And eventually there'll come a point where the money will no longer matter, because I'll have enough to pay my rent and to pay for food and to do that and to be doing this. And so it is about letting people know. Let people know I exist, so that I can continue raising the consciousness of the nation and raise the consciousness of the people and continue confronting person by person, if I have to, person by person, letting them know that there's a better way to do this. There's a better way to live. And that abandoning your neighbor is no way to build a nation. And just because you've given it a little name doesn't mean that that's not what you're doing. Just because you say you're a libertarian doesn't mean that your system isn't about abandoning your neighbor. So let people know I exist. That matters more to me than anything else. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Dina Marie from Ontario, Canada here. Good to see you, Dina Marie. Dina Marie, I'm going to tell you right off the bat, if you want to know what's going on in at least Toronto, perhaps Ontario, the greater region, contact socialistaction.ca. Tell them the Canadian Commie sent you. Socialistaction.ca. Fraudulent Airwaves says, thanks for putting the time in here. I got to tell you, Fraudulent Airwaves, my life is significantly better because of it. That what I do here, I was doing anyway. But I was doing it, I was inflicting it on others. That's the truth. Like, I bear a curse or a blessing. It depends on how you look at it, I suppose. But in either case, like, I must know what my leadership is doing, and I must talk about it, and I must do this. Like, if you ever go on a subway and you see a guy just sitting there, just going, oh, and then that would be me. If not for this, I'm sure of it. And if I don't do that, like if I take a week off from this, I start to do it. And I can see I've gotten to the point now where I can observe myself doing it. And so I can kind of pull back on it and try and get away from it faster. And I'm getting better at that. It's something I'm working on for sure. And, but doing this means that I get to talk to people normally. That's the true blessing. It means that I can go and have a conversation with somebody and they can be like, oh, hey, I saw the new Spider-Man movie, eh? I saw the new Spider-Man movie. It was good. Yeah, it was real fun. There was the 3 new Spider-Men and the 3 old Spider-Man rather, and they got together and it was great. They got all the Tobey Maguire was in there and all, and I get to just sit there and go, oh yeah, okay, huh? Oh, that does sound fun. Yeah, no kidding, absolutely. For sure, and I don't launch into a critique of the superhero culture and a critique of and basically point out that they're all proto-fascist, and point out that they're like pro-NATO, pro-imperialist status quo defenders. That superheroes basically live in a stasis until there's a crisis that threatens the system of capital, right? And then they come in and they defeat the crisis that fights the crisis of capital. And then they go back into stasis, and they themselves have no projects. That clearly people like Superman and Batman and even Spider-Man could have gigantic projects of improving their society and moving them towards a more equitable situation, but they don't. Like, they don't. right? They live in stasis until a madman shows up that's going to destroy all human life, which presumably includes capitalists. But like, and then if there is a capitalist who is a villain, so someone like Lex Luthor jumps to mind right away, right? It's more or less assumed that you've got to leave the capitalist alone unless they cross a line. And the capitalists themselves get to define what that line is. And they do so through the figure of Lex Luthor. So anyway, this whole conversation that I'm having right here, right? I would do this in front of just some random person who's like, I just wanted to have a nice talk about a superhero movie. You know, I really liked that superhero movie. I had a good time. I laughed. I cried. You know, when Gwen Stacy died, it was a real touching moment. You know, I didn't need a big critique about it. And one of the things I've really come to learn is there are people who do not engage in this political level and can't and won't. That they exist in a very low bandwidth. Their awareness of the world around them. And in many ways, they're good people to know in terms of like local politics, because they're more connected on the smaller local level. They don't exist in this big meta space. They're more connected in the local level, and they know more people. And in that sense, they're kind of good to know, and they're good people to have around. And I've come to I don't want to use these words like shallow, and even saying low bandwidth or any of that kind of stuff. Like they're just existing in a different kind of pattern, in a different kind of way, right? They're just around, you know? And getting with those people is quite refreshing. There's something very refreshing about it. They live without the burden. They live in that kind of, and they're good people, and they care about the people around them, and they're trying their best, and they work hard, and they do all of that kind of stuff. But if you start to tell them about what's happening over there in that Parliament building, they don't want to know about it. And they'll just go, oh dear. And there's nothing fundamentally wrong with that. And I've come to see that it's probably best just to leave them that way, because they seem perfectly happy. And isn't that the point? So if a person can be perfectly happy going to this job and being part of the community and having their apartment and going to see some Spider-Man movies and all that kind of stuff, then I say leave them. And that what we should be doing is thinking about those people, that we should be defending that. That we see trouble looming on the horizon. That we are the ones calling out trouble as it comes forward. And who's it trouble for? That person. That person. So it's about protecting them. Yeah, get the rants off so that I just don't inflict it on other people, and I can live more peacefully. I live a more peaceful life now. I'm less troubled. What is my suggestion for the hopeless? Revolutionary pessimism, so to speak. Okay, fraudulent. Now remember, you asked for this. One of these days I'll figure out how to say all this in a more succinct sort of way, but I'm working on it. You are literally a randomly generated being that has been spawned in to reality. Your parents were random. The system that you live in is random. The spot that you are within that system is random. You are just here. And you are just here because of forces that are greater and more powerful than you could possibly imagine. That the simple acknowledgement of that releases a lot of the burden. Because whatever system that generated us knows more about what's going on than we do. And that our struggle and our fight and what we are putting forward is a struggle and a fight that for which the system that generated us is our ally. And that while things might go sideways for us, for this small group, in this small moment, at this small time, in this fragile environment, at this moment, that the arc of creation itself bends towards truth, and bends towards justice, and bends towards understanding and knowledge. It bends in that direction. Because, and things are going to get a little wooey right here, okay? But just walk this path with me for just a moment. Because we are the universe attempting to discover itself. That we have been randomly generated not out of a sense of purposelessness, but out of a sense of creation attempting to discover its own reality and its own self. That we are, in essence, and so is all things that exist, divine beings. By definition and by its very nature. Logically. Physically. We are of creation and creation is of us. And we are the method by which creation discovers itself. And so right now, in this moment, at this time, I tell you that it might not be possible for enough of us to get together to get enough people into that state of awareness to prevent the disaster to unfold. That might be true. But that's not going to stop the force of creation. That's not going to prevent the earth from continuing that project of seriously attempting to discover what it is, and what it is it's here to do, if anything. And I think fundamentally what I'm trying to tell you is that you have a sense of hopelessness because your hope is for a vision of humanity. And I think that you should abandon that vision. That you should stop worshiping humanity and the vision of humanity that you have. And you should start worshiping your Creator. You should start honoring and acknowledging the power of the universe and the power of the world. And should we lament the passing of humanity, it should not be out of a sense that, well, humanity could be great. It should be because we have let our Creator down. That's the reason I do this work. Because I know why we are here. We are here to discover what this is. To discover what creation is. And for no other reason. We're not here to drive fast cars. We're not here to have a big house. We're not here to build big institutions and have power and do war. We're not here to buy islands and play at military. We're not here to even build families and have big structures. We are here exclusively and only to discover what this is. And there's nothing else that has any value whatsoever. And should we fail, as we might, should we fail, the only grief that I will have is that our failure was a minor setback for our Creator. That we do not get to be part of the journey of creation that helped our Creator discover what it was. And my hope for humanity is that perhaps within our failure will come a moment of discovery for our Creator. That perhaps it will take the failure of humanity. Perhaps it will take an event such as this for our Creator to discover something about itself that it did not know before. Perhaps it will be that way. That the vision of humanity's ascension to the stars, the vision of humanity reaching out and touching the sun, the vision of humanity harnessing stars, colonizing galaxies, becoming a spacefaring people, is the dream of humanity. And it might not be the dream of our Creator. That humanity spends all of its time looking outward when it should be looking inward. That we want to know everything about a dead red rock called Mars, but we don't want to know anything about our own ocean. So the hope that comes from all of that, the hope that comes from all of that, is that the burden that you bear, that sense of despair and that sense of hopelessness, you simply don't need to have. Because it's not your responsibility. As long as you are trying to honor your Creator, as long as you are trying to do right by the forces that are responsible for your existence, as long as you are treating the people beside you as another divine being, as another aspect of your Creator, as you are an aspect of your Creator, then your Creator has the wheel. And you don't need to bear that burden. You don't need to bear that burden. Because you're not that strong. You're not that powerful. The linchpin of creation does not pivot in you. And you can have hope, and you can rest assured that even as humanity fails, our Creator will rise. And that our failure is its success. So abandon your hope for humanity. and put your hope in your Creator. And I think you'll have a better time. I think you'll have a better time. And more than anything else, to take a lighter touch, do try to have a good time. Do try to have a good time. For the love of God, do try to have a good time. I genuinely believe, I shouldn't even say believe. Believe is an odd word. But I acknowledge that we are of the universe, and we are created by the universe, and that you are an aspect of your Creator, that you exist. I exist. We all exist as aspects of creation. Right? That there is an internal energy that we all share, that we all exist as members of the light pool. And we have equality within that light pool. That we don't have the absurdist notion of the equality of outcome or the equality of capability that conservatives insist what we're talking about. We have an equality of validity. We are all equally valid. Our existences are all equally valid. And so we deserve dignity and respect. Because our Creator saw fit to create us in the manner with which we were created. And so everyone should have access to food and shelter freely. And any society or structure that withholds food and shelter is illegitimate by definition and should be fought against tooth and nail because it stands against the wishes of our Creator. And if you are to understand that you are an aspect of your Creator, if you are to understand that you are an aspect of your Creator, that you are a divine being, that being on earth and being alive in this very moment is itself a gift and a miracle, that you exist, here you are. Well, the idea that you are here to suffer is a stupid one. And any being who actually believes that they are here to suffer is a dumbass. Forget about ideas like good or evil. Just stupid. Just a silly, silly, silly being. That if God created us to suffer, that if creation created us to suffer, then he's not evil, he's just stupid. He's just stupid. Because your suffering is creation's suffering. That when you suffer, creation suffers. And creation experiences that suffering. Because your experience is how creation learns about itself. And none of this is based on faith. This is how this works. It has to. It's by definition. And so when you go out and have a good time, you are showing creation itself a good time. You are building a society, and you are building a structure, and you are building a wider connection that says, hey, wait a minute. This place can be heaven. We can do it. We can build it. We can make it happen. Do you think pursuing heaven would include a lot of suffering? Or do you think being in heaven would be a reduction of suffering? So find yourself laughing more often. Find yourself having bigger orgasms. Find yourself finding pleasure. And if you find yourself having pleasure and then feeling shamed about it, you should really ask yourself why. You should really ask yourself, what is this shame or guilt I have for having pleasure? Because I'll tell you, the universe built you to have pleasure. It built you for that. You have buttons inside of you, created by millions of years of evolution, that are for pleasure. And you have the audacity to be ashamed of it? Enjoy your time. Enjoy yourself. Release your burdens. Stop wasting your time in suffering. Stop wallowing in the suffering. Play a video game. Read a good book. Do whatever you want. Your body, your choice. And understand. And I think that this is the point that I'm trying to drive home right here. More than anything. More than anything. That when you go out and you enjoy yourself, however it is that you've chosen to enjoy yourself, that is also the enjoyment of your Creator. That in those moments you are tied to the universe itself. And that the experience of enjoyment is also the universe experiencing joy. And that you are spreading joy into the universe through the simple act of your own enjoyment. And as long as you are not finding that joy through someone else's suffering, then you are increasing joy throughout time and space itself. And that joy will carry through. And that the next time you touch someone, you will do so with a joyful spirit. And that their joy will increase. And even more exponentially, if you touch them, understanding that they too, as you are a divine being. And that the troubles they have, and that the joy that they have, and that the worries that they have are just as valid as yours, because theirs are of the universe, as are you. I really love talking about this. I really love talking about this. It's my number one thing to talk about. Like number two is politics for sure. Number two is politics for sure, but this is number one. It's astounding to me that there is no wider discussion in the society about the reality that we are a collective energy talking to itself. That's bonkers to me. That the number one conversation that we are not constantly having over and over again on the airwaves, on the internet, is the obvious reality. The obvious reality that we are a collective energy discussing its own nature with itself. Trying to figure this out. What is this? Forget about why are we here. Forget that. That's more advanced. Like, what is this? And it won't be until everyone has access to food, everyone has access to shelter, everyone has access to education, everyone has access to health care, Everyone has access to the bare necessities of life and is permitted to express themselves fully and openly in peace, that we will begin the journey, that we will begin to look at one another and ask seriously, what is the nature of creation? What is the purpose of creation, if it has a purpose? Or even forget any of that. What we could be doing. And I think this would be amazing for us to do. Because of the temporary nature of this reality, creatures spawn in, are here for a bit, and by the force of the nature of creation, they die. And that's the system, and it's not going to stop. That means that we are temporary, by definition. We are here for a fleeting moment, before we are flung to wherever we go next, if there is a place to be flung. But what that means is that this place could be a refuge. This place, this reality, this earth. When people come here for the little moment that they are, this could be a resting place. This could be a place for a person to lay down their burdens, to sleep, to live in peace, to silently contemplate themselves, to have a party, to dance, to love, to share, to breathe, and to live amongst other divine beings in the full knowledge of their divinity, the full knowledge of the graciousness of their existence, and the beauty of experiencing creation in peace. And they could live their life here, in the infinite, endless realities that persist around us, and the chaos that they carry. This place could be where they could reach out and touch their Creator, or come as close as possible. And they could have that moment, and we could build a society that says, sit down, be silent, listen. And nobody would say, you got to get up and build that and do that and go get a job and work around or do any of that. Distract yourself from the internal journey of touching base with your Creator. Distract yourself. That instead, we would build a society that says, no. Isn't that the point? Isn't that the point? I think there's power living a life like this. There's power in this idea. A power that terrifies the capitalists. Because you can find contentment. But you find contentment within. With your Creator. Enjoying your life just for being alive. That externalizing your view, trying to find solutions to your internal turmoil outside of yourself, by throwing yourself into a job, by throwing yourself into getting a big car, Bugattis, gotta fuck bitches. By externalizing it, that's all fine. But that's just playing. That's just you playing a game. That's just the universe's game that it's created for itself to play. And that any moment, at any time, anywhere you are, you can just sit down and say, I'm going to stop playing that game. I don't really see the value of that game anymore. Yeah, the get the Bugatti game, okay. Yeah, the high power corporate CEO job game, okay. The lawyer game, this game, that game. Okay, great. I'm just going to sit down and I'm just going to have some time with me and my Creator. That's where the serious business is. That's where the serious business is. All the rest of this is just dust and sand. It blows away with time. As do you. But the light that created you, that's endless and eternal. It cannot blow away. It will not blow away. Even if this universe decays and explodes and vanishes into nothingness, the light that created it will persist. So what's a better game? Get the corporate job game, get the promotion game, have a kid game, get a pet game, drive a fast car game. Or attempt to have a meaningful connection to the very being or source or energy that spawned you in the first place. And the capitalists don't want you to recognize that. Because if you become a person who is perfectly content within themselves, that you don't need to buy things, that you don't have that sense of unfulfillment, you don't carry that sense of emptiness around inside of you, that you're not constantly looking around you for something to fill that empty void, because you know exactly where to find that and know exactly how to fill it by yourself, and you can do so anywhere, at any time, at any moment. Well, if you don't have that, then they can't sell you a thing. You don't need a fast car to impress your friends, your peers. You don't need a big house. You don't need a diamond watch. You don't need these baubles and doodads and gadgets and gizmos. You don't need them. They might be fun. And if you can't get sold anything, well, then that's the end of them. That's the end of their entire system. That if we were a people who were sitting in fields, staring at the sky, watching the clouds go by, tending to little patches of crops and food, as is the demand of our Creator, then that would be the end of them. Thank you, Kevin. I guess I used to feel a little embarrassed talking this well on stream, or talking this way on stream, or discussing this, you know? Because I would get a little concerned that people get turned off from the woo, or they roll their eyes, or there's any of that kind of stuff. But I think I'm at a point now where I don't care. It makes me happy to do. Sermon. I mean, I don't know sermon, but look, I worry about saying this kind of thing. And good to see you, by the way, DM. It's been a minute. And you, Asif. Good. It's been a minute. Good to see you. I worry about saying this kind of thing because I know I can be accused of sounding arrogant. But I think it's true. I do. I know it's true. That when I speak, and when you speak, we speak with the voice of God. That your life is not frivolous. That you do not live a diminished existence. That the most powerful people in the world are just as valid as you. That your existence is no less valid. Because you are of creation and you are of your Creator. And when you speak with the voice of God. And so our objective as communists, our objective should be to look to the demands of our Creator, for which there are a scant number. You need food. You need shelter. You need water. You need air. And that is all. Those are the demands of your Creator. Food, shelter, water, air. I suppose it is actually earth, fire, water, air, isn't it? Huh. Who knew that Avatar The Last Airbender had it? Dang, what a good show. I'm kind of just realizing now that I've had like this Jesus Christ thing up this whole time. I guess timely, I suppose. Oh well. All right, guys. This was a good one. This felt good for me. I've been in a negative space for a little while, and today was very nice. It was good to sing. It was good to speak about this stuff. I hope I wasn't boring. I can tell that there are people out there who valued it, and that's enough for me. And hey, always remember, each and every one of you is a quantum being, walking around in quantum energy. These billionaires are doing everything they can to ensure you'll never realize it. You'll just stay the good little commodity they need you to be. Rebel. Revolt. Repent. Good luck. We're going to need it.